Ethan Collins was what one might call a self-made man. At 30, he had already reached the pinnacle of the competitive business world in New York. With a fortune built on technology and venture capital, Ethan lived in a luxurious apartment in Manhattan, surrounded by sports cars, extravagant parties, and stunning women. His name was synonymous with success, and he carried that status with pride. For him, life was a constant game of power, prestige, and challenges. On an ordinary night, after closing a multi-million-dollar deal, Ethan and his circle of friends were at one of New York's most exclusive clubs, the Empire Lounge. The ambiance was sophisticated, the low lights created an intimate atmosphere, and the sounds of modern jazz filled the space. Between sips of Scotch whiskey and laughter, the conversation at the table turned to Ethan's personal life. "Ethan, you've had it all, haven't you?" commented David, one of his Wall Street colleagues, tossing the words into the air with a tone of provocation. "Women, money, fame. Do you think you can win over anyone, anytime?" Ethan laughed, relaxed in his leather chair. "It's a matter of charm and confidence, man. If you know what you're doing, you get everything." "Let's see if that's true," said another friend, Ryan, the boldest of the group. "I have a challenge for you." Ethan raised an eyebrow, curious. "A challenge? I'm listening." Ryan pulled out his phone and, after a few clicks, showed a photo. On the screen was Amanda Lawrence. She was a woman completely outside the beauty standards Ethan was used to. Amanda was obese, with curves that defied the slim body stereotypes dominating New York's elite. But there was something about her that caught Ethan's attention. Something in Amanda's eyes that seemed to shine in a way he couldn't decipher. "Here's the challenge," Ryan said with a mischievous smile. "You have to win Amanda over and marry her. But not just that, you have to stay married to her for a whole year." Ethan laughed, unable to believe what he was hearing. "You're joking, right?" "I'm not," Ryan insisted. "You think you're so good at winning over any woman? Prove it. Plus, we'll make a bet. If you succeed, we'll give you $1 million. If you fail, well, you'll pay the same amount." Ethan's smile faltered for a moment. It wasn't the money that concerned him. He could lose $1 million and not even notice the difference. It was the ego that was at stake. He was known for taking on any challenge, for never backing down. "All right," Ethan said, regaining his composure. "Challenge accepted. A year, no problem. Who is this woman anyway?" His friends explained that Amanda was a university professor at one of the city's most renowned institutions. She taught English literature and lived a modest life in Brooklyn, far from the glamorous world Ethan knew. She wasn't famous on social media, didn't move in Manhattan's elite circles, and, according to them, wasn't easily impressed by appearances or money. Perfect, Ethan thought. If I can win over supermodels and women always surrounded by luxury, this will be simple. The next morning, still buzzing from the adrenaline of the previous night, Ethan felt a slight discomfort at the thought of the challenge. Marrying someone like Amanda, someone so different from his world. It seemed absurd, but he had never been one to back down. It would be easy, just 1 year. He could treat it like a game. With a plan in mind, he decided to act. Using his contacts, he got Amanda's number and made the first move. To his surprise, she agreed to meet him for coffee, even without knowing who he was. There was something in Ethan's invitation that intrigued her. Perhaps it was curiosity about why a man so different from her usual circles would be interested in her. They set up a meeting at a cozy cafe in Brooklyn, away from the glitz and glamour of Manhattan. The place was simple, with bookshelves scattered around, and an atmosphere that matched Amanda's lifestyle more than Ethan's. When she walked into the cafe, Ethan was taken aback. Though physically different from the women he was used to, Amanda had a striking presence. Her eyes were full of life, and her posture was confident. There was no hesitation in her movements, and it intrigued him. When they sat down, the conversation flowed in an unexpected way. Amanda was not only intelligent, but she also had a worldview that challenged everything Ethan believed. While he talked about his business, Amanda provoked him with philosophical questions and reflections on the social impact of the capitalism he promoted. Ethan, used to superficial conversations, was caught off guard by Amanda's depth, and, to his surprise, he began to enjoy it. "You're different from what I imagined," Amanda said after a while, looking at him with curiosity. "What do you mean?" Ethan asked, confused. "I don't know exactly why you invited me to this meeting, but I can tell you that I'm not interested in games. Whatever you're looking for, I prefer honesty." Her direct comment left Ethan unsettled. He was a man who always maintained control, but there he felt vulnerable. Amanda didn't seem impressed by his money or status, and that intrigued him even more. For the first time in years, he didn't know exactly how to proceed. "Don't worry, Amanda," he said, trying to sound more sincere than he felt at that moment. "I'm here to get to know you for real." She smiled, not fully convinced, but decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. What Ethan didn't yet know was that this challenge, which seemed like just another game to prove his superiority, would mark the beginning of something much bigger. That coffee meeting in Brooklyn would be the first step in a journey of transformation he could never have predicted. After the first meeting, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Amanda. The initial plan was straightforward: win her over, keep the marriage for a year, and then go back to his life. He expected that, as always, his skill in manipulating situations and people would help him win this game. But the more he reflected on that afternoon in the Brooklyn cafe, the more unsettled he became. Amanda wasn't what he had anticipated, and that was the problem. In the following days, Ethan began to invest time in getting to know her better. Not with the depth of someone emotionally involved, but with the curiosity of someone trying to solve a puzzle. He invited her to dinners and outings, always choosing places different from the world he was so familiar with. However, Amanda often suggested simpler, more accessible places, far from the glamour of Manhattan. On a crisp autumn evening, Amanda invited him for a walk in Prospect Park, Brooklyn's large park. Ethan agreed, curious. He couldn't remember the last time he had walked in a park without a specific purpose or destination. It was a clear, cool night, and the air was scented with fallen leaves. Walking side by side, he noticed that the relaxed environment seemed to accentuate Amanda's natural charm even more. She made no effort to impress him. She simply was who she was. During the walk, the conversation quickly deepened. Amanda began to talk about her life, about how she had faced challenges since childhood. She had never fit the aesthetic and social standards the world expected. The pressure to be thin, beautiful, and successful in a city like New York was overwhelming. But Amanda had found her strength in education and knowledge. She became a teacher to show people that a person's value wasn't in their appearance, but in how they contributed to the world. "I always wanted to prove to myself that I can be more than just what others expect," Amanda said, looking up at the stars. "I want to make a real impact on people's lives. And for me, it has nothing to do with beauty or wealth. It's about character." Ethan, used to superficialities and fleeting interests, began to feel uncomfortable. He realized that Amanda had a sense of purpose he did not share. Until then, his life had always been driven by the pursuit of more money and status. But there, walking with Amanda, he started to question himself. "You don't care about those things, do you?" Ethan asked, curious. "What things?" she replied, with a slight smile. "Money, fame, the lifestyle that so many people here in New York would kill for?" Amanda laughed, but not with disdain. It was a light, almost understanding laugh. "Of course, I understand the value of money. I grew up knowing what it was like to live with little. But I don't believe money buys happiness. It can make life easier, but it doesn't define who you are." Those words resonated with Ethan in an unexpected way. For a long time, he had believed that financial success was the ultimate measure of a successful life. The idea that there might be something deeper, something more meaningful, unsettled him. Amanda not only attracted him with her intelligence and authenticity, but made him confront his own beliefs. As their meetings became more frequent, Ethan realized that the challenge was slipping out of his control. Amanda was not like the other women he had known. She wasn't impressed by luxurious dinners or expensive gifts. Her connection to the world was entirely different. Instead of seeking status, she sought a life of meaning, based on empathy and social impact. This made him question if what he had always believed was important really was. On a Saturday afternoon, Amanda took him to one of her university classes. She was giving a lecture on literature and identity, discussing how great American writers portrayed characters who challenged societal norms. The class was diverse. Young people from various backgrounds, colors, and beliefs filled the room. Ethan, sitting at the back, watched attentively as Amanda spoke passionately about how literature had the power to transform perceptions. The world tells us who we should be, what we should want, and how we should look, she said. But literature reminds us that life is much more complex and beautiful than any imposed standard. The characters that touch us the most are those who break expectations. They show us that the true value of a person isn't in their appearance, but in their journey. When the class ended, Ethan remained silent. He had never thought about things this way before. To him, life had always been a competition. Amanda, on the other hand, seemed to see life as a journey of growth, full of ups and downs and rich in meaning. "You're impressive," Ethan confessed as they left the university. "I've never met anyone like you." Amanda looked at him with a curious expression. "I don't know if that's a compliment or a strange observation," she said, laughing. "It's a compliment," Ethan replied, now more serious. "You see the world differently, and it makes me think about things I've never thought about before." At that moment, something changed in Ethan. The challenge, which had started as a game, was turning into something much deeper. He began to realize that despite his wealth and success, he felt an emptiness. Amanda, on the other hand, seemed to live a life full of purpose, even without the material luxuries he had always considered essential. Ethan began to question what really mattered. He had spent his life chasing more money, more status, more power. But in Amanda's presence, he started to feel that perhaps there was something much more important in life than these things. In the following weeks, Ethan dedicated himself more to truly getting to know her. Each conversation with Amanda challenged him to see the world from a new perspective. She wasn't interested in his fortune or status. She saw him as an ordinary man, someone with flaws and insecurities, and Ethan began to see himself that way too. Little by little, Ethan's world began to change. The luxurious parties and events he attended started to lose their appeal. He found himself thinking more about how Amanda viewed life, how she found value in the small things and in authentic human connections. For the first time in a long time, Ethan felt he was learning something new, not about business, but about himself. Amanda, unknowingly, was transforming Ethan's life in a way he had never imagined. Over time, Ethan realized he was becoming increasingly attracted to Amanda, and not due to a strategy or to complete the challenge, but because of who she truly was. This feeling was confusing and unsettling. He, who had always been in control of every situation and relationship, now found himself immersed in an emotional whirlwind. Meanwhile, Amanda had no idea about the challenge behind Ethan's intentions. She saw him as an intriguing man, with layers beyond the typical millionaire who flaunted himself at luxury events. Amanda wasn't sure what to expect from Ethan, but each new meeting left her with the sense that there was more beneath the surface of his wealth and power. One afternoon, Ethan decided to invite Amanda to one of his parties, a gala event in Manhattan where he and his business friends used to show off their luxury cars and designer clothes. Amanda hesitated. It wasn't the kind of place where she felt comfortable, and the idea of being surrounded by superficial people bothered her. Nevertheless, Ethan persuaded her, saying it would be a good opportunity for them to spend more time together. On the day of the party, Amanda arrived in a simple yet elegant dress, different from the extravagant style of the other women present. As soon as she entered, she felt the weight of judgmental glances. It was clear that many of the women there looked at her with disdain for not fitting the conventional standards of beauty. Amanda tried to keep her head high, but Ethan, noticing her discomfort, began to feel guilty. For the first time, he questioned whether this was the kind of environment she deserved. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, noticing the tension in Amanda's shoulders as they passed a group of socialites who were staring at her. She took a deep breath before responding. "Yes, I'm fine, but I don't think this is really my scene." Ethan knew she was right. The forced laughter, conversations about multi-million-dollar real estate, and the flaunting of wealth were everything Amanda despised. What he didn't expect was to feel the same way. At other parties, he would have felt comfortable and in control. But now, beside Amanda, he found himself re-evaluating all his choices and values. Seeing Amanda's disconnection from that world made him realize that, in some ways, he had never truly belonged to that universe either. The night continued, and Ethan tried to distract Amanda, but the tension in the air was undeniable. At one point, one of Ethan's friends, Derek, an arrogant and also wealthy businessman, approached the couple, laughing and visibly drunk. He had known Ethan since adolescence and was aware of the challenge Ethan had accepted. To him, it was all just a big joke. "So, Ethan, have you finally won the prize?" Derek teased with a sarcastic smile. Amanda, surprised and confused, frowned. "Prize? What is he talking about?" Ethan turned pale. Derek had no idea of the impact his words would have, and Ethan realized at that moment how much he was playing with fire. He tried to deflect the situation, but Amanda had already noticed something was wrong. "It's just a joke among friends, nothing serious," Ethan said quickly, trying to change the subject. However, Amanda sensed there was something deeper going on. The atmosphere became tense. Amanda looked visibly uncomfortable, and Ethan knew that if he wanted to truly win her trust, he would have to be honest eventually. But that moment wasn't now, not with Derek around and all eyes on them. The rest of the night dragged uncomfortably. Amanda tried to keep her composure, but something inside her wasn't right. At the end of the party, as Ethan drove her home, she finally asked in a serious and calm voice, "What was that about, Ethan? What did he mean by prize? Am I a joke?" Ethan felt the weight of guilt press on his chest. He knew Amanda was smart enough to realize something was wrong, and sooner or later, he would have to face the consequences of his actions. But at that moment, he couldn't find the right words. All he wanted was to buy time to process what he was feeling and how he could tell the truth without losing the one woman who was starting to mean something real in his life. "It's not what you're thinking," Ethan replied, his voice more hesitant than usual. "Derek was just being an idiot, as always. Don't take it seriously." Amanda watched him in silence for a few seconds, her eyes analyzing every expression of his. She knew something was being hidden, but decided not to press him further that night. However, the trust she was beginning to build with Ethan started to waver. In the following days, Ethan felt the impact of that incident. Amanda was more distant, her responses shorter, and he could see that she was processing everything. And within him, a growing dilemma formed. On one hand, there was the challenge, the opportunity to win the bet and maintain his reputation among his friends. On the other hand, there was something much more important now. His feelings for Amanda, which were real, far more real than he had anticipated. Ethan began to realize how destructive and empty his circle of friends and lifestyle truly were. Derek and the others would never understand what he was going through. As for them, Amanda was just a pawn in a frivolous game. But for Ethan, she was becoming much more than that. The dilemma was eating him up. He knew he was at a crossroads. If he didn't tell the truth, he might end up losing Amanda forever. Yet, if he revealed the challenge, he risked hurting the only person who had started to show him a new path in life. From that moment on, Ethan knew he would have to make a decision. And it wouldn't be easy. Ethan spent the following days restless, immersed in a dilemma he had never imagined facing. He was deeply torn between confessing the challenge to Amanda or continuing to live the lie until he figured out how to undo the damage. In his previous relationships, everything had always been simple and superficial, but with Amanda, the emotional complexity left him vulnerable and exposed, as if for the first time he had something real to lose. Amanda, on her part, was beginning to piece things together. Even without confronting Ethan directly, she knew something was wrong. The way Derek had addressed her at the party continued to echo in her mind, and Ethan's evasive behavior since then didn't help. She was confused and hurt, not knowing how far she could trust him. One Saturday night, Amanda was at home, lost in her thoughts, when she received an unexpected message. It was from Claire, one of Ethan's friends who had been at the party. Amanda was surprised. She had never had much contact with Claire, so the message was unusual. However, the text made her heart race. "We need to talk. I know what's going on between you and Ethan, and you deserve to know the truth." Amanda hesitated. It was clear that something was being hidden, but at the same time, she feared what it was. Nevertheless, she scheduled a meeting with Claire at a cafe in downtown the following day. When they met at the cafe, the atmosphere was tense. Claire seemed uncomfortable, as if she was about to reveal something she didn't want to, but knew was necessary. After a few minutes of casual conversation, Amanda got straight to the point. "You said you know what's happening with Ethan and me. What is it?" Claire took a deep breath, clearly unsure of how to start. But soon she sat up straight and said, "Ethan, he's playing with you." That day at the party, Derek's comment. It was about a challenge he accepted with our friends. Amanda remained silent, but her face hardened. "A challenge?" she asked, already bracing herself for what was to come but needing to hear the details. "Yes," Claire continued, visibly uncomfortable. "He accepted a bet, something stupid that started one night when we were all drunk. One of our friends, Derek, dared Ethan to win you over, to actually marry you. All of it as part of a game." Amanda's world seemed to stop. Claire's words sounded distant, as if they were being spoken through a tunnel. Every piece of kindness, affection, and love that Ethan had shown suddenly felt like manipulation, a cruel and calculated plan. Amanda felt her stomach churn, the betrayal burning like fire inside her. "Ethan accepted that?" Amanda's voice was calm, but tense, as if she was struggling to keep from exploding. Claire nodded, clearly regretting being the bearer of such painful truth. "Yes, but I don't know if he realized how things would turn out. I think he started it all without thinking, as a joke. But now, seeing how he is with you, I think Ethan really cares about you. But that doesn't change what he did." Amanda felt a lump form in her throat. The pain of betrayal was intense, but there was also a part of her that wanted to understand. Claire continued, "I know it doesn't justify what he did, but since he started spending time with you, he's changed. We all noticed it. He's not the same arrogant guy who took on this challenge. And honestly, that's why I'm here telling you this. He needs to be honest with you, but I don't know if he will manage to do it on his own." Amanda was silent for a long moment, trying to process the information. She thanked Claire and left the cafe, feeling as if the ground had crumbled beneath her feet. On the way back home, emotions mixed in her mind. Anger, sadness, disappointment. Everything she had thought was genuine between her and Ethan now seemed like a big farce. When Amanda arrived at her apartment, the tears finally fell. She had allowed herself to believe that Ethan was different, that he could be the man who was beginning to transform her life in a meaningful way. But now, it all seemed like an illusion. On the other hand, Amanda knew she needed to confront him. She wasn't the type to run from problems, and as hurt as she was, she needed direct answers from Ethan. The next day, Ethan arrived at Amanda's apartment without knowing what awaited him. He had felt her distance in the past few days, and it worried him. He knew he was approaching the moment when he would have to tell everything, but he still didn't have enough courage to come clean. When Amanda greeted him, there was a coldness in her gaze that Ethan had not seen before. They sat on the sofa, and the silence between them was palpable. Amanda didn't take long to start speaking. "Claire told me about the challenge, Ethan." The words hit Ethan like a punch to the stomach. His heart stopped for a moment, and he knew at that instant that there was no more running away. He had to face the consequences of his actions. "Amanda, let me explain," he began, but she interrupted him with a firm voice. "I just want to know one thing, Ethan. Everything you've said and done with me so far, was it all part of this game? Was any of it real?" Ethan felt the weight of guilt crush him. He knew that apologies wouldn't be enough to fix what he had done. Taking a deep breath, he looked into Amanda's eyes and said, "At first, yes, it was because of the challenge. But over time, I really fell in love with you. Nothing I feel now is a game, Amanda." Amanda looked at him for a long moment, trying to discern the truth in his words. As much as she was hurt, a part of her wanted to believe that Ethan had changed, that what they had was real. But the pain of betrayal was too deep. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for me?" Amanda said, her voice trembling. "To know that I was the target of a stupid bet between your rich and arrogant friends? I thought you were different." Ethan lowered his head, the shame weighing on his shoulders. "I know I was wrong, Amanda. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I never wanted to hurt you. Not like this." She remained silent, tears streaming down her face. The betrayal was too deep to be resolved with words at that moment. Even though Ethan's feelings were now genuine, the damage had already been done. "I need some time, Ethan. I need time to understand all of this and decide if I can forgive you." Ethan nodded, knowing he had no right to ask for anything more. He watched as she moved away from him, and at that moment, he was certain he had destroyed the only thing that truly mattered in his life. He left Amanda's apartment feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. The challenge he had accepted without thinking had turned into a nightmare that threatened to destroy any chance of a real future with Amanda. And now, all he could do was wait, and hope that there was some way to find redemption. After the painful confrontation with Amanda, Ethan found himself in an emotional limbo. The weight of his actions and the awareness of the depth of the pain he had caused Amanda constantly haunted him. He felt lost, unsure of how he could regain the trust of someone he had disappointed so profoundly. Determined to try to repair the damage, Ethan decided that the first thing he needed to do was distance himself from his social circle and the life he knew. He felt that the environment he had been involved in, the group of friends who had orchestrated the challenge, had contributed to the superficiality with which he had treated his relationship with Amanda. He needed a fresh start, away from the influences that led him to make this mistake. He began his journey of self-reflection and personal growth, starting with a silent retreat at a meditation center in the California mountains. Without access to social media and in an environment free from distractions, Ethan spent weeks introspective, reflecting on his actions and his true intentions. It was a period of intense self-assessment and deconstruction of the values he had blindly followed. During this time, Ethan engaged in activities he had never considered before, from meditation and yoga to volunteering in a small local community. He worked at a homeless shelter, helped with literacy programs, and even participated in a youth rehabilitation initiative. These experiences not only helped him see the world from a new perspective, but also forced him to confront his own superficiality and understand the true value of human connections. Upon returning from his retreat, Ethan was determined to make significant changes in his life. He knew that winning Amanda back would be a monumental challenge, but he was committed to showing that he had transformed. The first thing he did was seek out a therapist to help him work through the emotional and behavioral issues that had contributed to his past actions. Meanwhile, Amanda was undergoing her own healing process. She had withdrawn from social life and focused on her own emotional recovery. The pain of betrayal was becoming part of her past, but trust was something she was not yet ready to offer again. She began to dedicate herself to personal projects and activities that made her feel good about herself, such as painting and volunteering with a local organization that helped women overcome difficulties. Ethan understood that he couldn't just show up in Amanda's life and expect her to take him back. He began working on a meaningful project as a gesture of remorse and genuine appreciation of the change he had undergone. Ethan decided to create a fund to help victims of emotional abuse, a project that would not only assist those who had experienced similar situations to Amanda, but also represent a commitment to true and lasting change. He ensured that the fund was completely transparent and that all actions were documented and audited publicly. The goal was not only to help those in need, but also to build a reputation based on integrity and compassion. Ethan devoted himself to this with a fervor he had never shown before, working alongside experts and activists in the fields of mental health and emotional support. During this time, he also made a conscious effort to distance himself from his old life, including the friends who had contributed to the challenge. He cut them out of his life completely, understanding that he needed to start over and build a social circle that truly reflected his new values. After months of hard work and significant changes, Ethan decided it was time to reconnect with Amanda. He knew he needed to be completely transparent and patient, respecting her space and decisions. He wrote a letter to her, explaining not only the work he was doing to try to make a difference in the world, but also how much he had changed and what he had learned about himself. Amanda received the letter with a mix of curiosity and caution. It was evident to her that Ethan had made a genuine effort to change, but she was still unsure about how to handle this new reality. She decided that to truly understand if the changes were real, she would need to see firsthand how he was living and whether his actions matched his words. Finally, she agreed to meet Ethan at a cafe they used to go to before. The meeting was tense and filled with emotion. Ethan had prepared a speech but chose to speak from the heart, expressing his regret, his journey of self-discovery, and the work he was doing to help others. Amanda listened attentively. She could see that Ethan's sincerity was not forced and that the transformation he had undergone seemed real. However, the pain from the past was still present, and she knew that the healing process would be gradual. Amanda decided to give Ethan a chance to prove that he was truly committed to change and that his actions were authentic. The reconciliation process began with small actions. Ethan became a constant support in Amanda's life, respecting her space and showing through his actions and commitments that he was genuinely dedicated to being a better person. Trust, though still fragile, began to be rebuilt. They met occasionally to talk and share experiences, not rushing to resume a romantic relationship, but with a mutual understanding that the path to rebuilding would be long and full of challenges. Ethan understood that true redemption was not something achieved quickly, but an ongoing process of growth and change. He was willing to face any obstacle to demonstrate that the love and transformation he had experienced were real and enduring. What had started as a monumental mistake and betrayal had turned into a journey of self-discovery and commitment, and Ethan was ready to follow this path no matter where it led him. As the months went by, the relationship between Ethan and Amanda evolved into a new dynamic. Although there was still a deep wound that needed to heal, both were committed to building mutual understanding and overcoming past traumas. The reconciliation journey was marked by small steps and sincere gestures from Ethan, demonstrating his commitment to honoring the promise of change and respect. Ethan continued to dedicate himself to the fund for victims of emotional abuse, and Amanda followed from a distance the positive impact his work was having. She began to get involved in some of the fund's initiatives, offering her perspective and support, which helped to strengthen the connection between them in a new and positive way. This collaboration provided them both with a sense of shared purpose and allowed them to see the fruits of Ethan's hard work in concrete actions. However, complete reconciliation was still far from being achieved. Amanda struggled with the idea of reopening herself to a romantic relationship, especially given the trauma she had experienced. Ethan understood that trust, once broken, could not be restored quickly, and was willing to do the necessary work to prove that his intentions were sincere. Ethan began attending support groups and couples therapy, not with the intention of forcing a reconciliation, but to better understand the impact of his actions and learn how he could contribute more effectively to emotional healing. He came to understand the complexities of human relationships and how empathy and deep understanding were essential for rebuilding any relationship. Amanda was also on a path of self-healing. She started sharing her own stories and experiences at workshops and events focused on empowerment and emotional recovery. Through these activities, she found new strength and a voice for her experiences, helping others to overcome similar difficulties. This new purpose brought her a sense of accomplishment and allowed her to view her own journey more positively. A significant turning point occurred during a fundraising event organized by the fund Ethan had created. Amanda was invited to speak about her own experience and how the fund's support had impacted her life and the lives of others. As she took the stage, she saw Ethan in the audience with a look of support and encouragement. Amanda's speech was touching and inspiring, and the audience was deeply moved by her courage and the strength she demonstrated. Ethan felt a wave of admiration and pride for Amanda, seeing how much she had transformed and overcome her challenges. After the event, Ethan approached Amanda with a renewed sense of hope and commitment. "You were incredible up there," Ethan said sincerely. "I know I can't erase the past, but I am more determined than ever to do everything I can to help build a better future for those going through similar difficulties." Amanda looked at him with a mix of respect and caution. "I see the difference you're making, Ethan, and I know you've been working hard to show that you've changed. There is still much to be done, and this is a path we both need to tread cautiously." They talked for hours, revisiting old memories, discussing the challenges they had faced, and exploring possibilities for the future. It was a conversation full of honesty, vulnerability, and a mutual desire to find a new path for their relationship, which, although still developing, was transforming in a positive way. Ethan and Amanda decided to start meeting regularly to continue building a solid friendship and to support each other in their personal journeys. They were not yet ready to resume a romantic relationship, but they were open to the possibility of a new connection based on respect, understanding, and personal growth. As time went on, Ethan and Amanda continued to work on their own lives and their respective missions. Ethan was invited to speak about his experience and the impact of the fund, and his stories of overcoming and transformation inspired many. Amanda, in turn, became a prominent voice in emotional support and empowerment initiatives, expanding her impact and helping others find healing and strength. At a moment of reflection, during an event where both were present, Ethan approached Amanda with an expression of hope and gratitude. "I know our journey hasn't been easy, but I am grateful that we've found a new path for ourselves. Regardless of what the future holds, I know our lives have been enriched by the experience we shared." Amanda smiled, a smile that reflected both relief and hope. "I am grateful too, Ethan. I've learned a lot about myself and what it truly means to grow and forgive. If we can continue to make a difference in the world, then, in some way, our past had a purpose." Over time, the friendship between Ethan and Amanda grew stronger, and they maintained a relationship of mutual support and respect. Although their lives took different paths, the impact they had on each other was profound and enduring. Ethan's work and Amanda's voice continued to inspire and transform lives, and both found a new sense of purpose and meaning in their personal journeys. The past, with its flaws and lessons, served as a constant reminder that true transformation is possible and that redemption can be found through sincere commitment and dedication to personal growth. The story of Ethan and Amanda became a testament to the fact that even from the most painful situations, it is possible to create something positive and meaningful that impacts not only their own lives, but also the world around them. If you enjoyed this story of growth and transformation, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel to follow more inspiring stories like this one. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any new content and share it with your friends so more people can be impacted. Your support is essential for us to keep bringing meaningful messages.